All right, if you're a senior architect working in the cloud, you already know that observability is, well, it's the bedrock of any resilient system. But the real question is, are you building on solid ground? Today, we're going to draft the definitive blueprint for logging architecture in Azure. Let's get right into it. So picture this, it's 2 a.m. A critical service goes down, and your on-call engineer is scrambling. In that moment, is your logging data a confusing black box, or is it a clear blueprint that points them exactly to the root cause? And that difference, right there, that's all about architecture. You know, for a lot of organizations, the reality is a logging labyrinth. You've got infrastructure logs streaming from VMs, application logs coming out of your Azure functions, and then AKS is over here generating its own telemetry in a totally different format. It's a maze of disconnected data. And look, this isn't just some technical headache. When you can't connect the dots between services, you're creating massive blind spots. And what does that mean? It means slower incident response, longer downtimes, and ultimately a real impact on the business. And as architects, dealing with that risk, that's our job. So how do we get out of this labyrinth? Well, Azure actually gives us a really powerful tool to bring some order to all this chaos. Think of it as a central point of gravity for all of our telemetry data. And that tool is Azure's Log Analytics Workspace. I want you to think of it as the intelligence hub for your entire environment. Seriously, it's not just another database. It's this powerful engine that's built from the ground up to ingest, index, and query massive, and I mean massive, volumes of data from pretty much any source. And this, right here, is the key. You can see how logs from your VMs, your functions, AKS, app services, all of it, can flow into this one single unified workspace. This consolidation is what gives you that single pane of glass we're all constantly chasing. It makes cross-system analysis not just possible, but actually pretty straightforward. Okay, so having a central hub is great, but how you structure it, that's probably the most critical architectural decision you're going to make. This is where we really start designing the blueprint. This is where we earn our keep. So at a high level, you've really got two main ways to go. On one hand, you've got the centralized model, where pretty much everyone logs to a single shared workspace. And on the other, you have the decentralized model, where you might have separate workspaces for each team, or each app, or maybe per subscription. Each one has some pretty significant trade-offs. Okay, so let's really dig into this decision, right? If you look at the centralized model, it makes querying across teams a breeze. I mean, imagine tracing one user request all the way from the front end to a back-end microservice, all in one query. But figuring out who pays for what can be a real headache. Now, the decentralized model, it makes cost control super granular. Each team just pays their own way. Simple. The big trade-off, though, is that querying across those team boundaries becomes incredibly complex, if not totally impossible. It's that classic trade-off, isn't it? Do you want that perfect unified visibility, or do you want to give teams their own autonomy? All right, theory is great, but let's make this real. Let's say you're a platform engineer. Why does this decision actually matter on a Tuesday afternoon? Let's walk through a quick detective story to see how a good architecture and the right tools can solve a very real-world problem. So, the mystery starts. Users are complaining about random slowdowns in a really important API. Now, because of your great architecture, all the logs are right there in your centralized log analytics workspace. Our lead detective, the engineer on call, has one main tool in their belt for sifting through all of the evidence, the Custo Query Language, or KQL. So they start to craft a query to hunt for clues. And this query right here, this is the smoking gun. Now, you don't need to be a KQL wizard to get what's happening. The engineer is basically just asking, hey, show me all the requests that took longer than 1 second, and then tell me which external service they were calling by grouping them up. This one simple question cuts through millions of log entries to find the hidden pattern. And the result? Bam. One specific downstream dependency is consistently slow. Case closed. You see how that whole detective story was only possible because of that well-designed architecture? It just wouldn't have worked otherwise. So let's boil all this down into a concrete playbook you can actually use to build your own resilient logging strategy. Okay, here's your playbook. You might want to jot this down. Number 1, and this is the big one, start with a centralized workspace. Unless you have a really compelling reason not to, like strict data sovereignty or billing rules, just start there. The power of cross-team querying is a total game changer. After that, use Azure policy to automatically enforce logging everywhere. Lock down access with good old RBAC,
Get your teams comfortable with just the basics of KQL. And finally, actively manage your data retention policies to keep your costs in check. That, right there, is your foundation for success.
So there you have it. We've gone from a tangled labyrinth to a clear, actionable blueprint. We've moved from the problem to the patterns. You now have the blueprint to turn your own logging maze into a true intelligence hub. So the real question is your strategy ready for what's next? And more importantly, what are you going to build with it?